Venus and Sagittarius. Reading from a book here, it talks about Venus and Sagittarius. And as a pre-existing pattern, the Venus and Sagittarius person has a deep need to discover and actualize their own personal truth. This need is conditioned by the nature of that which confers a sense of meaning and purpose in their lives. That which constitutes value and meaning in their lives will in turn condition their orientation to and thereby determine the nature of their beliefs. And the nature of their beliefs will constitute the nature of their personal truth. In other words, the Venus and Sagittarius person must have a guiding philosophy of life in order to have a core sense of meaning and purpose. So this is interesting because I think, to sum that up, it would be very hard to convince a Venus and Sagittarius of anything as far as a life philosophy or a belief system, to convince them of anything that goes against their own personal truth. And I think this correlates with this idea of the Sagittarius archetype being the know-it-all, being very righteous, very strong in their beliefs. This could be very different from, we have to look at the whole chart as usual, but it could be very different than other Sagittarius placements. I would say Venus and the Sun and maybe the Moon are going to really have that, are going to have this. But again, it says as a pre-existing pattern. I mean, it depends on what kind of work the person does, self-work, or how much studying they have done, what experience they have. Within this pattern, these people are committed to their ongoing personal evolution and growth. So that's the thing, that their truth can evolve. Their core sense of meaning and purpose still, like anything else, can evolve and change over a long period of time. On their terms. The Sagittarius archetype is defined through the archetypes of fire, mutability, and yang. These archetypes in combination create an inner energy that is defined through perpetual expansion. As a result, the Venus and Sagittarius person is fundamentally restless and is committed to the value of the personal freedom to pursue any experience they deem necessary in order to discover and actualize themselves. The need for freedom permeates these people, and they generally will not tolerate any condition or constraint that inhibits their independence or freedom. When such conditions or constraints exist, the Venus and Sagittarius person will progressively feel an inner alienation from those conditions or constraints, and the psychology or alienation becomes a causal factor or determinant in separating, at least inwardly, from those conditions or constraints. So I think that goes with the idea of learning and the expansion and the freedom, learning, expansion, the things that have to do with fire signs. I mean, as long as they feel like they're learning and growing and that they have freedom, even if they really don't have those things, as long as they feel that way, Venus, then they will probably not change. They will probably be fine with everything. They probably will not separate. Venus does correlate with money. And, and nice things. If they have nice things, you could say, if they have the money's flowing in a lot of these people's lives, they may feel like they're growing, even though from another perspective they're not growing at all. Inwardly, the Venus and Sagittarius person feels and knows that they are connected to something that is much larger than themselves. In a phenomenological sense, it is as if they instinctively know that there is a manifested creation and that there must be a universal truth or inherent laws and principles that can explain the nature of the creation that appears phenomenal. Thus, there is a simultaneous need to understand not only their personal truth, but how that personal truth is connected to the ultimate truth. That is the basis of the manifested creation. So, if a Venus in Sagittarius does have their personal truth, if you can talk ultimate truth and put it in a context of religion and philosophy, then it sounds like they'll at least talk about comparing their personal truth, but they're not going to give up their personal truth. That's what it sounds like. But they'll talk about it. They'll talk about truth in general. Inwardly resonating and relating to themselves in this way will condition how they relate to other people. In addition, the need for personal freedom and self-discovery also serves to condition with whom they will relate to in every way, generally and intimately. The Venus and Sagittarius person is firmly centered in the right brain. As a result, they relate to themselves in nonlinear, image-based terms that are defined as ever-increasing concentric circles that attempt to embrace the totality of life itself. This will reflect itself as a deep thirst for knowledge and experiences of a diverse nature that will in turn allow for the Venus and Sagittarius person to discover the underlying principles, archetypes, or dynamics that can explain the causal factors in what appears as diverse and contradictory. These people are highly intuitive. They have an inherent wisdom that is free from the constraints of the linear left brain logic of a deductive nature. You're getting into that, anything that is Sagittarius, Pisces, 9th house, 12th house. That's what he's talking about there. Coming from the right brain, able to think in expansive ways, intuitive ways, putting different pieces together, random pieces together to get something as opposed to ABC. The ability to grasp the whole first, which allows for the individual parts of that whole to reveal themselves in their own natural order. Kind of get into like holistic learning. See, what we learn, these people could have trouble in school because that's not how school is set up generally. It's putting the pieces together. And this is how I was. I mean, I could do both. But still, I didn't like it. Because the inner space is defined by ever-increasing concentric circles that attempt to embrace the whole of life, these individuals have an inner vibrancy that is buoyant, light, free, and enthusiastic. There is an innate capacity to see the famous light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, this would fall more in the category of being artistic as well. He may be a fan of abstract art, music, travel. Really travel. Travel is going to be a big way that these people learn. Values the nature of humor as a vehicle that can lead to healing in a variety of ways. They have the ability to laugh at themselves, the ability to make others laugh. I mean, anytime you have Sagittarius placements, you have some fire, that's especially Sagittarius, that's good for being able to laugh at yourself, enjoying comedy. They're very natural and spontaneous, fun-loving people. Sincerity goes with Jupiter, Sagittarius, honesty. One of the problems with them is that that they have is a generalization of truth. They feel that their personal truth, or the truth reflected in their philosophical religious belief system, is the truth for all. My God is the ultimate God. And that is Sagittarius. They always have, he's talking about the idea of they always have to be right. Venus and Sagittarius can fall into this. This will be a lifetime struggle, even if they objectify this. I could do this with astrology, because there's many different ways to look at astrology. And as I said before, some people may just look at it as cycles. And then if you tie in reincarnation or evolutionary astrology, then it's no longer applicable to them. And I could easily say, coming from where I'm coming from, that they're wrong. When in fact, they're going to go their whole life thinking what they're thinking, not change anyway. So who's really right and who's wrong? I always say about my dad and the way he lives his lifestyle and his beliefs about things or whatnot. If he can get away with it, which he looks like for most of his life, he's survived. So how can you tell him anything different? And when they are challenged or disagreed with, they all too often will attempt to convince and convert others to the validity of their particular point of view, much as a preacher in a pulpit attempts to convince others to the righteousness of his or her convictions. I mean, I deal with very intelligent Sagittarius people, and I will tell them this, and they understand it, but they still can't live it. Not fully. He gets into reasons why this is. Some of this stuff, I'm not going to get into that. Just some more surface level stuff. There's a deep need to defend their beliefs and convert others to them in order for the Venus and Sagittarius person to sustain their sense of values, purpose, and meaning. This is one of the forms that the survival instinct takes when Venus is in Sagittarius. So he's connecting Venus again with survival. The ruler of Taurus, survival. That if they can't convert others, if they're around other people, and they can't convert them, and they have to defend their beliefs, then they because these are fundamentally honest people, that they may have to change their values, purpose, and meaning, and they don't want to do that. Who wants to do that? No one wants to do that. And when you're constantly traveling, you're constantly relating to other people, this Sagittarius Gemini dynamic, they can easily fall into this category of always trying to convince other people because of that. They don't want to give up their current life, so to speak. When really it's not like that at all. But again, they're fundamentally honest. They don't want to be hypocritical. But you can think about it, they might need to go into that Gemini. Some people, they look at Gemini as bad and the liar and things like that. But these people sometimes, hey, you got to relate to if you have to relate to other people and you want to be social, you got to move into the Gemini. And it's okay sometimes to not be so honest so you can live your life. I've dealt with this for sure. I've dropped a lot of situations and a lot of people because I just got sick of it. I got sick of putting on the mask and want to be my Sagittarius-like self at all times. But it just doesn't work like that. Another common problem they have is one wherein they can exaggerate whatever their perceived problems are. Exaggerate or embellish the retelling of an experience they had, or exaggerate the descriptions of others who may have violated them in some way. So exaggeration. worse, the Venus in Sagittarius actually believes in their own lies to the extent that the lies become their actual truth, so to speak. So I guess that would be the danger there. You don't want to go that far that you aren't aware that you're lying. Gets into some more things here, and then in their intimate relationships, Venus and Sagittarius person is forever needing and trying to balance their need for independence within the context of their relationship. Because they have an almost absolute need for perpetual growth within themselves, they need and desire an intimate other who is also committed to personal growth. This will then allow for the dynamics within the relationship to be defined by mutual commitment to growth. It's very simple. Very simple here for Sagittarius. Any Sagittarius who feels this way. Find somebody with where you've created some level of boundaries where you're permitted freedom to some degree. In effect, these individuals need to be in a relationship where there's an ongoing sense of adventure. Same thing. Understanding that adventure is necessary, to have it maybe built in to the relationships of some sort, like a schedule, agreements on that. I knew a guy, this is what he says anyway. He divorced his wife because she was boring. That's what he said. I don't know if he's watching this, because he's kind of into astrology, but he divorced her, he said, because she was lazy, wasn't doing anything, and she was boring. Among other things. Those kind of things. And she had a stellium in Aquarius, I think. So, yeah. Venus and Sagittarius person needs the kind of intellectual or philosophical stimulation and to be periodically challenged by their partner through such types of discussions. When this does not occur, they lose their respect for their partner and become progressively alienated. Now, this can all be great. You can have all this. You can still have a person not be satisfied, depending on their whole chart. They have restlessness. They need movement and travel. It's good for salespeople, getting out there, moving around, talking to people. Independence. Sexually, the Venus and Sagittarius person is quite ardent, giving, spontaneous, natural, fun, playful, open, things like that. They don't want it to be stagnant routine. It says by nature, the Venus in Sag is not monogamous because of their need for unrestricted growth. It is not that they are incapable of being monogamous, but in order for this to occur, they need a partner who is willing to sexually grow with them, one who is open to sexual spontaneity, who is sexually versatile, and who does not preclude any way of being sexual. The Venus and Sagittarius person requires the diversity of sexual experience as yet another way of knowing themselves totally. For the evolution to proceed, they need to embrace their polarity, Gemini. This is to learn with all of these placements. To look at Gemini, understand Gemini, respect Gemini, to respect the polarity, to learn about the polarity, learn about other people's point of view, their truths, the relativity of it all. Learn how to hear them and understand them from their perspective, their reality. Some people won't even let you do this, even if you want to, because they know how bad people are with this. Like if you get an intermediary and you get into what someone else said, and they won't tell you. They'll tell the mediator, and you're never going to find out what was said, or they'll just separate you. The workplace is horrible for this. The workplace is horrible for growth. The only growth the workplace cares about is money. It's financial growth. Anything gets in the way of that, forget about it. Once the feeling of equity is established, others will be much more open to the beliefs, opinions, and points of view. Yeah, once you establish some rapport, then that you understand their point of view, that you're open to their point of view, then they'll listen. The natural teaching ability of these individuals can be received and then applied. And the Venus and Sagittarius person will realize that others may just have something to teach him or her too. Get out of that survival mode, Taurus, into the Scorpio, that to be changeable, which they like to do anyway. So that is the Venus and Sagittarius. Stay tuned for Venus and Capricorn, and thanks for watching.